Hello, good day everyone. Sir Kevin here again, and I'm working safer at home. And this is a continuation of our topics in good governance and social responsibility subject. And let's just a quick rundown of our discussion in the past meeting. We talk about complexities and issues of corporate social responsibility, and we dig deeper in the corporate social responsibilities impact to the society. So we have four facets that we need to consider when we make corporate social responsibility program in an organization. So uh, we will be talking about the marketplace, the environment, the community, and the workplace. In general, we'll be digging deeper each one of this, a specific meeting for every one of these, and we'll be discussing issues as well regarding this. But today, we'll be discussing about the workplace. Now, so we'll be making ethical decision makings for employer responsibility and employee rights. At the very least, um, human resource is one of those resource that an organization really need to manage well. Why? Of course, there are machineries and equipment present to facilitate production in a systematic and costless manner. But uh, businesses really has to focus on the human resources because uh, the fact that they are not robots, they're not just part of the system, but they are part of the troubleshooting and also part of the solution because they can think, no, kasali sila sa solusyon, no, and they are assets because not just same what the machine, they'll be doing what they want, they are programmed to do, but employees are more than capable of doing more amazing things and productive things, no, na hindi magagawa ng isang machine. So that's our topic for today. That's ethical decision making on employer responsibility and employer rights. Employee and employer has those mutual responsibility to each other. In an economic terms, the business and the business owners provides job to those household, those employees. In return, employees will be part of that labor force and the production that the company needs, no. As I've mentioned in the past, um, we are dependent in our environment, and part of our environment are these employees. If we are the company or the owners of the company, so we need also to consider their plights. We need to consider their rights, no. So we should also expect that their rights to be upheld in specific time, no, that these are needed. These rights and responsibilities relate to areas such as health and safety, no. Last time I believe that I mentioned you about the safe man hours, no, and the provisions of the terms and condition of employment, equal opportunities, and the right to be paid for minimum wage, no? Pinaka-issue to ngayon dito sa Pilipinas as a developing country and an emerging economy, no? The Health and Safety at Works Act set out responsibilities and rights for both employees and employers. Ano yung mga responsibilidad mo bilang employee, ano yung responsibilidad mo bilang employer. I think na feature to sa isang news show, a news feature show, na merong isang empleyado na pumasok yung parte ng katawan niya dun sa makina at na anong tawag dito, permanently disabled yung part ng katawan na yan. So, of course, we need to think about the safety of our employees. No? Employees are expected to carry out work in a way that has regard with the safety and the safety of others in particular. So, employers employers are expected to abide by the range of requirements, ensuring that training of employees in health and safety issues, particularly now in the pandemic period, that health protocols must be strictly abided by the company, and carrying out a risk of assessment to assess the dangers and particular work activities. No, these there are also specific regulations about the way which is potentially harmful substances should be used and stored. No, there are a number of requirements about the minimum temperature at work and other aspects of the working conditions. No, so of course you need to provide them uh, uh, a good, a well environment to work on, no, as part of your best practices in the organization. I'll tell you this: your employees are your assets more than the customers. No, more than the customers, employees are the first one to love your company. Dapat, no? Okay, so let's move forward about the ethical decision making of the employee and the employer's responsibility. No, okay, so ethical issues in the workplace include those the current environment. We all have decisions to make about how we will treat others in the workplace and how we will ask to be treated. Remember, as part of the good governance and also the ethical decision making, we may lift the idea of providing that equal treatment and the principles of the human rights at the very least, no, so we'll be treating them well. I'll tell you, a company that treats their employee well has that what we call more employee morale and a productive environment. No, mas masipag ang empleyado, mas productive sila, mas minamahal nila yung kumpanya kasi they are treated well in an organization. And particularly, those are the reasons why many of the employees na nagtatagal sa kumpanya, ang reason nila ay because of the environment. No? How they are treated by their company and also their workmates. So ethics at work and in human resource management is about our relationship with others and with our organizations. So it's a give and take relationship. If marketing focus on the satisfaction of customers, it also it a business also needs to satisfy the needs of the employees or the plights of the employees. At the very least, you need to consider them para maging motivated sila. Ang pinaka goal doon is ma-achieve mo yung production and the quality level of the output para ibenta mo sa customer. So you see, they are part of the value delivery. No? They are part of the network system na kasali dun sa pag-fulfill mo nung satisfaction to the customer. So according to research, it demonstrates that companies that place employees at the core of their strategies produce long-term returns to shareholders than to those industry peers. So ibig sabihin nito, no, that a company that put their employee first has those high retention rate first for the employee and also the retention and the sustainability of their company. No? So, notwithstanding this truth, less than half of the US workers feel a strong personal attachment. No? Kapag na-attach yung mga employees dun sa company, magtatagal yan at merong mabubuong isang magandang relationship within an organization. So, at the very least, these are part of the component of the ethical working environment in an organization. No? Okay, so ethical issues in the workplace, the current environment also. There are two very distinct and sometimes competing perspectives on their ethics of workplace. There's what we call consequentialist approach and deontological approach. What is the consequentialist and the deontological approach? Deontology is the ethical system, no, in which morality is determined by duty or laws. Ulitin ko, the ethical system, no, determined in which morality is determined by the duty or law. No, one example would be Kantian ethics, in which the only actions that are moral are those performed, no, by one's duty to follow the moral laws, no, as opposed to the acts performed out of desire. So it's not it's more on the performance, no, not on the on the uh, about the desire, no. How about consequentialist approach? Consequentialist. Sorry for that. Consequentialist approach, yan. Consequentialist approach or consequentialism is the moral philosophy is probably best captured in aphorism, the ends justify the means. No? An example of consequentialism system of ethics would be utilitarianism, in which the most morally desirable situation is that in which no, people's happiness is maximized. No? So, kung saan sila masaya, that's consequentialism. No? And deontologicalism is kung ano yung tama. No? Kadalasan, uh, yung dalawang mga approach nito ay nagbabangga. No? Na sometimes competing, sabi nga. So, in consequentialist approach, employers might decide to treat employees well as means to produce greater workplace harmony and productivity. No, kasi nga you want to boost their morale, no? And when employees see that the firm values their emotions as well as exhibits values such as honesty, respect, and trust, they feel less pressured, more valued as employees, and are also more satisfied with their organization. No, so technically they are more motivated. They're that production. They want to boost their production uh, as well as their quality of work. No, kasi nag-enjoy sila. They feel empowered. No, because they feel that the company or the organization trust them. Okay, so on a deontological approach, no? On the deontological approach, ano nangyayari dyan? So it emphasizes the rights and duty of all employees and the interest in treating employees well simply because it is the right thing to do. No? Ay, ito yung tama. Kanina, ano yung sa kapakanan nila. Now, the approach now is utilitarian, sorry, this sense of duty might stem from the law, professional codes of conduct, corporate codes of conduct. So, it talks about the compliance, no, the compliance of the in the organization's law and also the law in general, no, sa okay, so that's the ontological approach. It's part of the current environment we're in. This is the right thing to do, no? So defining the parameters of employment relationship. Philosophically, the right of due process is the right to be protected against arbitrary use of authority. So, napagbintangan ka lang, no? Or piniprame up ka. So, at the very least, and in legal context, due process refers to the process that police and courts must follow and exercise their authority over citizen, no? The company cannot, no, or should not impose authority na ganito yung ginawa mo. So at the very least you have that right to due process, no. Yun yung protection ng employee towards false accusation, no. Baka napagbintangan ka lang. So this authority creates a safe and orderly society in which we all can live, work, and do business. So the same thing in an organization, if there's due process, dun malalaman kung totoo nga, no, yung nangyari. If you remember the ethical decision making chapter, due process is always considered because on the other side of the coin, you might not know what really happened, no? Parang ito yung ano natin, yung issue ni Tekla. Na issue ni Tekla. We need to know the due process. We cannot judge people according to what you have just saw, no? Because you might just had saw part of the story, not the whole story. No? Okay, so we have what we call downsizing. Now, when does this happen? The same concept in marketing. So downsizing is terminating workers, whether 100 is not necessarily an ethical decision. So let's just go back with the idea. In marketing, downsizing is terminating a division or a unit. No, so in the good governance and social responsibility subject, downsizing refers to terminating employees. So, it might not be an ethical decision no na magtanggal ka ng one or several or hundreds of employees. O depende kasi sa sitwasyon niyan, no? Even the law allows downsizing whenever necessary, no? Dahil palugi yung kumpanya. But, no? Kailan nagiging unethical yung decision? Whenever there are unethical processes or hindi maayos yung paggawa ng decision. Anyway, so let's just talk about that in a live session. So, we should consider the following factors in executing that process, no? So, downsizing should be planned, no? There should be timing and notice and the impact, no? So you need to consider the following factors when we do downsizing. So uh, on those who will go and those who will stay and stakeholders perception. Of course, you need to see, no, yung perceptions nila. No, you go to the due process at the very least, no? Consult people, what will happen and the likes, no? So, para hindi maging unethical. Ano yun, tatanggal bigla-bigla wala na pala silang trabaho, no? So, that makes it unethical. No? So, as mentioned earlier, it might not be unethical at the very least kung pagbabatayan natin yung meaning ng downsizing. But the process might be unethical. No, yung pagtanggal mo sa empleyado might be unethical. Pinapayagan, especially now in the pandemic period. No? Okay? So, also, as mentioned earlier, organization must put into mind the health and safety of its employees, no? Like work itself, health and safety are goods that are valued both as means for attaining other valuable ends and as ends in themselves, no? Whenever things happen in an organization, no? At hindi na consider health and safety, ano mangyayari? Ang organization din ang mapapahamak, 'di ba? Ang organization din ang tatamaan niyan. So, if they fail to follow the health protocols, especially now in the period of pandemic, of course magsasara yung kumpanya kahit ilang araw, 'di ba? For disinfection and other reasons. So, health and safety must be also part of the priority, no? And also, according to some researches, no, that whenever employees feel safe in their organization and in their workplace, no, nagiging motivated sila at hindi sila natatakot to do something na lalo na kung tungkol to sa attainment of the goals of the organization. So there's a wide consensus that employees have a fundamental right to a safe and healthy workplace, no? Paano ka magtatrabaho kung may sakit ka? O paano ka magtatrabaho kung natatakot ka dahil hindi nakaput into proper places yung mga safety standards and health protocols. Halimbawa, nagtatrabaho ka sa isang construction worker ka, tapos wala ka naman man lang helmet or other safety guides there. Siyempre may takot yung performance ng duty mo, 'di ba? So in some other regions, employees lack even the most basic health and safety protection, such as in working environments that are often termed sweatshops, no? Yung iba kasi hindi maganda yung environment nila at kahit saan na lang pinapatrabaho nila. Of course, you as employers, as part of the uh, uh, production, no? You need to create a really an ergonomic and workable workplace na uh, makakapagtrabaho ng maayos, no? Paano yung magbubungguan na lang sila, 'di ba? Habang nagtatrabaho nagbubungguan sila. So you need to um, time and motion study dun sa mga tao, as well as ano yung mararamdaman nila habang andun sila sa environment na yun. Baka sobrang init naman. So you need to consider that as part of the health and safety considerations in decision making for your employees. So we have what we call government regulated ethics, or part of the Occupational Safety and Health Center, no? So it's created by the virtue of the Executive Order number 307 on November 1987 by the President Corazon Aquino. The OSHC, or the Safety and Health Center, is envisioned as the national authority for research and training on matters pertaining to safety and health at work. So it provides the expertise and intervention mechanism to improve workplace condition in the Philippines. So it's a seminar, sineseminar nila yung mga practitioner para magkaroon ng standard, no? Magkaroon ng intervention mechanism on developing a workable and a safe and healthy workplace. So this is inconsistent with the critical responsibility to provide access and improve the quality of occupational safety and health center in the Philippine workplace. So that's the OSHC. Okay? So another issue to be considered, especially in ethical decision making in employee rights, is the case of the child labor. No? In developing countries such as the Philippines, children begin to work at ages as young as 3 years old. And those children may work in unhealthy condition. They also live in unhealthy condition. No? So, in these developing countries, yung iba napipilitan magtrabaho kahit bata pa. No? There are pertinent laws, no, about the case of the child labor. Child labor in the Philippines is the employment of child in hazardous occupations below the age of 18. So below the 18 age 18, it's called child labor. Or without the proper conditions and the requirement below the age of 15, where children are compelled to work on a regular basis to earn a living for themselves and their family, and as a result are disadvantaged educationally and socially. Yeah. Kasi they need to work na dapat nasa pag-aaral sila. They should have been studying. Right now it should be senior high school or college. So they're disadvantaged educationally because they need to have to make money for their families, no? So it's a going issue, no? So of course, kung nahihirapan din ang mga nasa edad, how come, or what more for children below 18 years old and other 15 under 15 years old to work on that kind of environment, no? Then the National Statistics Office has said that there are currently around 5.5 million child laborers aged 5 to 17 years old in the country, and around 3 million of whom are exposed to environment that are considered hazardous. I just don't know if this is true, that according to one video that I've watched, that uh, there are companies in China that employ young people to do uh, sniff, you sniff what kind of metal or plastic is that. I just don't know, but that is exposing the child into a hazardous or detrimental state, no? So that's a case of child labor, at the very least, uh, in with the basis of law, no? they cannot make decisions for themselves, no? In fact, we need parental consent whenever we do contracts with them, no? Paano pa kaya yung mga trabaho na yon na syempre they cannot decide for themselves at hindi sila makakapagreklamo, no? So that's part of it, no? Okay, so the International Labor Organization estimates that there are 55.3% of the children undertake hazardous work or in an agricultural settings. I think I think we also have observed this in some other documentaries that children are forced to work, no, especially those minorities or segments of the society na sobrang nangangailangan ng pera, no. Okay. Then also we have what we call discrimination as issues of our the employee rights. No, that the courts have carefully construed legal precedents the decade since Title 7 of the United States Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964 and created the prohibited classes of discrimination. So there are different kinds or different types of discrimination, and kasali na dyan yung racial discrimination, no? In the Philippines na it's not so much, not a big issue, pero still an issue, however, no? Kung sa America there are racial discrimination reported against black Americans or black people. Here in the Philippines, there are some or minor concerns. I just don't know kung na-brought out na to as a major issue, but uh, they discriminate language barriers, language defect, dialect defect of other people coming from different regions. Now, of course, hindi naman tayo pare-pareho ng mga languages, and some of us hindi tama yung pagkaka-English o hindi tama yung pagkaka-pronounce. So, there are some discrimination ongoing o against and uh, this group of people, no? And also discrimination for against the senior citizens towards a specific job, no? Pero I think na brought out na to into a law that should be also treated well as the same as those in a working segment or working age segment or bracket, no? So, and also discrimination for PWDs and discrimination to women, no? That has been also brought out lately, no? That they should be part, and they should also have that same equal treatment as those in the uh, yung mga kalalakihan at mga tama yung edad. So, it's an issue na di masyadong nabibigyan ng pansin, no? Okay. So, we also have concerns about diversity in the employer responsibilities. Particularly in culture, we have a diverse culture, especially here in the Philippines, no? Especially communication nagiging affected dito because of the barrier of the language or dialects that we use, no? The opposition to change dahil papunta na tayo dun sa technological generation, no? Yung mga medyo nakakatanda, medyo nahihirapan mag-cope up, but at some point they really adjust. So diversity refers to the presence of differing culture, languages, ethnicities, races, affinity, orientations, genders, religious sects, uh, abilities, social classes, ages, and national origins of the individuals in a firm. So, one major consideration of the decision makers in the organization is this: iba-iba kasi tayo ng pinagmulan. We have different races, we have different environments that we are raised, no? We have different cultures, we have different beliefs. At the very least, we need to consider to be fair, to everyone as a basic human right, no? So as a challenge, we need to do an affirmative action, that a policy or program that tries to respond to instances where there has been some past discrimination by implementing proactive measures in order to ensure equal opportunity today. So that's the affirmative action in the HR side, or the human resources side, that yeah, we are adjusting with those new laws and the prevalent culture and prevalent um, norm, no, or cultures. Okay, so other ethical issues are yan, as part of our lesson in the past, the honesty. Now, honesty refers to the truthfulness or trustworthiness. So in business, people can become confused with the opposite of honesty, which is dishonesty. Dishonesty defined as a lack of integrity, incomplete disclosure, and unwillingness to tell the truth. Also synonymous to the word lying, cheating, stealing, and many employees lie to achieve performance objectives. So eto minsan those perspectives are also against each other, dahil minsan you need to lie to get that performance, no, to achieve that performance, no. At the very least, honesty also requires being transparent in everything that you do, no. Okay, so lying can be segmented into three types of lies, no. There are lies that cause damage or harm, no. There are lies that causes damage or harm, no, that's false witness, no. Number two, white lie, no, that which doesn't cause damage but can be called an excuse or something told to benefit someone else. Sinabi ko to kasi ganito, no, that's the white lie, no, nagagamit yan. And number three, statements that are obviously meant to engage or entertain with no malice, no, para matapos na lang din. At sabihin na natin to para matapos na rin. So, technically, these types of lies are unethical. However, depende. Ginagamit to sa iba't ibang sitwasyon. But at the very least, of course, we need to tell the truth. Kasi those might be excuses. And things in the future may hurt us, no. That's an ethical issue. Pag nalaman nila ganito pala, no, darating yung araw, marirealize din nilang mali pa rin yan, eh, kahit na subukan mong i-plaster yan, i-ban-aid yan, it's still lying. Okay, so yun, commission lying is creating a perception of or belief by words that intentionally deceive the receiver of the message. You know that in your oral communication subject, no, purposive communication as well, no. That's a commission of lying, no, na ginawa mo, na nagsinungaling ka para ma-deceive mo yung ibang tao o mapasunod mo dun sa gusto mo yung tao. And the omission of lying is hindi ka nagsabi, no? Hindi ka nagsabi, kaya nga pwedeng nagkaroon ng harm or might be hindi naintindihan ng iba, no? So those are ethical consideration. Again, we go back to our values. What should have been done, no? Okay? So abusive or intimidating behavior, at some point they consider this bullying, no? Bullying in other context, no? So it's not just happening in schools, but also in a company, in an organization. So abusive or intimidating behavior is the most ethical problem for employees, because merong mga employee na dominant at merong mga employee na recessive or passive. Ibig sabihin na overpower sila nung malakas yung personality na tapos they try to dominate those people na recessive or stagnant or passive. And nangyayari dito, nagkakaroon ng conflicts or misunderstanding, no? Kaya nga minsan we have different perspective na yung joke nung isa ay hindi matanggap na joke nung kabila, no? That happens in the communication process. It's how we perceive because we have different lights, we have different situations, and that's part of an abusive or intimidating behavior. At the very least, meron tayong pananagutan sa isa't isa, no? Uh, in we affect we affect others because of what we say. Minsan hindi lang dun sa kung ano yung ginagawa natin but also what we say to them, what we tell to them, no? So it can be mean by physical threats, false accusation, pero ang pinakamabigat dun is yun nga, actually hindi physical physical is nakikita naman yan but you know what is a discrete problem here are those interpretation of those uh, intimidating behavior using words. No? So that's false accusation, being annoying, it's insulting, yelling, harshness, and ignoring someone. And the meaning of those words can differ by person. Yun nga, iba't iba tayo ng definition. No? But if we try to understand every people in the organization, then might be a tool para hindi na maranasan tong mga to. It's important to understand the culture of one another. So, hindi kasi tayo pare-pareho ng pinagdadaanan. No? So, there are conflict of interest na nangyayari that it exists when an individual must choose whether to advance his or her own interest, those of the organization, or those some other groups. Kasi meron akong interest that might be conflict with other interests, no? Yun, baka magkaiba o magkasalungat, and that is tantamount to a problem or an issue in an organization. No, kanya nga babalik tayo dun sa interest ng organization, no? Na kung ano yung nasa policy, kung ano yung nasa batas, kung ano yung nasusulat, yun yung susundin. No? At least may basehan ka kasi iba't iba tayo ng interpretation dyan no, ng kung ano yung sitwasyon. Then bribery is part of the unethical problems na nangyayari sa isang organization. Is the practice of offering something, usually money, in order to gain an illicit advantage. No? Bribery can be active or passive. So an active bribery, when a person who promises or give the bribe commits the offense. It's active. No? So a passive bribery naman is an offense committed by the official who received the bribe. That's passive. So kumbaga pangingikil, pabaliktad naman ang approach. No? So another issue in an organization, particularly when considering employees' right and welfare, is the sexual harassment. Uso to ngayon at mainit na issue dito sa Pilipinas. Can be defined as any repeated unwanted behavior of a sexual nature perpetrated upon one individual by another. So it may be verbal, visual, written, or physical, and can occur between people of different genders or those of the same sex. So, ulitin ko, we have different perceptions. So, especially those green jokes may not be perceived well by the receiver of your messages. So, please be careful dahil merong halimbawa lalo na kung meron kang kaibigan na babae, no? They might be sensitive of those issues. And many men as well may be sensitive with this, no? Kanya nga wag basta-basta mag-joke ng green dahil iba't iba tayo ng perception diyan. At merong ma-offend at ma-offend, no? In fact, it's also what do you call this? Discomforting to feel na ganun nga yung kapag nadinig mo yung mga jokes na lalo na kung conservative yung approach mo sa buhay, no? Iba't iba tayo ng perception pero ilagay natin dun sa anong tama. Hindi kasi kung ano yung nakasanayan. Okay? Those are just some because next session we'll be discussing about data privacy and other technical issues as part of the employee rights and responsibility. Thank you again for tuning in and see you again next time. Thank you very much and God bless.